Hi, it's Nicole. Planning is the absolute favorite part of my reading process. This might sound a bit weird to you. Why do I like planning so much? And even more strangely, why do you need planning as part of your reading process? Surely you just read whatever you like. Of course you can, but I tend to plan quite heavily and I have a few reasons. Reason one, there are so many books out there. Even if I spend 6 or 8 hours a day, every day for the rest of my life, I wouldn't be able to make a dent in the mountain of literature, even if I just focus on English literature. And reason two, I don't read for leisure or entertainment only. I want to learn. So I prefer reading books that can teach me and can make me a better or a wiser person. So life is short and books are many. I want to spend my short life reading good books and reading with purpose and meaning. So planning is absolutely essential. Reason three. I can't remember who said this, but the more you plan, the better you read. I have experienced this many times. For example, if I have a potential reading list at the beginning of the month, as soon as I finish one book, I will just get on with the next one. But if I don't have a potential reading list at the beginning of the month, there are two scenarios. Scenario one, when I finish one book, it will take me a while, even a couple of days, to decide what to read next. And then I might have to order it, and if it's from Blackwell's, it might not arrive until next month, and I waste a lot of time that way. Scenario two, I might just grab random books from my shelves and they are never as coherent as if I did some planning. So by the end of the month, I can always tell the reading month is not as good. So I plan and decide what titles to read at the beginning of the month, and then I just work my way through them. Lastly, I just love doing research. I can be extremely geeky. I can spend hours searching through internet, through Wikipedia pages of the authors, of their works. I like searching through my local library catalogs and Kindle stores and my own shelves. I just love turning my own living room into a giant sweet shop and going down rabbit holes. Another rabbit holes. So today we're planning for Jane Austen July. I'm super excited about it, and I'll just talk you through my planning process. There are 7 challenges. You can watch the announcement videos. I will link them in the description box. So the first challenge is read one of Jane Austen's 6 major novels. I'm going to read Pride and Prejudice, or rather I'm going to listen to Pride and Prejudice. The reason is quite straightforward. I just read the other 5 major novels last year and I haven't reread Pride and Prejudice for a while. So the choice is just which audiobook to go for. I think I remember Katie recommended the one by Rosamund Pike. There is also one by Alison Larkin. I will just choose one. So that's easy. I'm aware there is a Pride and Prejudice read-along, but I might not join that one. And I will tell you the reason in challenge 3. The second challenge is to read something by Jane Austen that is not one of her 6 novels. And I have already decided on this one as well. I'm going to read her letters. I'm going to give another go at her letters. You might remember I mentioned in one of my previous videos that I have failed it once. I thought this will be a good opportunity to give it another try. Now I know exactly why I failed it the first time round. I read it without any context. It's a bit like listening to one half of a telephone conversation and I have no idea what they were talking about. So that's why the next book is going to help, I hope. The third challenge is to read a non-fiction work about Jane Austen or her time. I'm going to read Jane Austen at Home by Lucy Worsley. It's a biography of Jane Austen. I liked it when I first read it, and it referred to Jane Austen's letters a lot, and I expect the letters and the biography will improve the reading experience for both. They will help each other. How? I think on one hand, the biography gives bigger context to the letters. For example, when Austen wrote this letter to her sister Cassandra, where did she live? How old was she? Who did she live with? Was she on holiday? This might help make sense. The biography might help make sense of some of the things Jane Austen talked about in her letters. And on the other hand, the letters might give some clues to the specific events mentioned in the biography. For example, when she met her special friend on this date, did she write about it? What did she write about in the letters immediately after the date of that event? Is there anything we can detect between the lines? We might or we might not. For one thing, I know her sister Cassandra and her family censored a lot of her letters and destroyed them. Another non-fiction book I'm interested in is called What Matters in Jane Austen. The reason is this seems to be the only non-fiction book that analyzes Jane Austen's novels instead of her person or the historical period she lived in. So I'm tempted to read this one, but if I do, I will read this one before I reread Pride and Prejudice, so I can come to the novel with new perspectives and insights, and that's why I'm not likely to join the Pride and Prejudice read-along. And so far, this is the only book that I don't own, and I can't find it in the library, so I will have to order it. Always have to take budget into account during planning. The fourth challenge is to read a retelling of Jane Austen's work or a work of historical fiction set in Jane Austen's time. I'll probably go for a historical fiction set in Jane Austen's time. There are a lot of historical events that happened during her lifetime, and there's a lot of social unrest and wars. Austen was 14 when the French Revolution started in 1789, and 4 years on, Britain was at war and most of the Europe was at war, all the way to the Battle of Waterloo and the end of the Napoleonic Wars in 1815. And Jane Austen died 2 years later, aged 42. That explains why there are so many soldiers and military men in her works. I have a few options for this challenge. Since the French Revolution is the event that dominated Jane Austen's lifetime, I thought A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel might be a good choice. I heard it's an excellent historical fiction about the French Revolution, and I did love Wolf Hall by Mantel. Two more historical fictions that are on the subject of the French Revolution are A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens and Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. I've read both of them and I would really highly recommend both of them. A Tale of Two Cities, I'd say, focuses more on the actions, more on the revolution itself. Everybody in the novel really lives in the eye of the hurricane, while Vanity Fair talks more about people who are not on the battlefield, the wives, the daughters, the mothers who try to live their life while their men are on the battlefield and while the war rages on around them. And the second choice is Burning Bright by Tracy Chevalier. I've been wanting to read one of her historical novels for a long time. I keep hearing people talking about how great she is recreating historical details, so I'm interested in her as an author. The story is set in late 18th century in London, which is the exact correct time period, set in England. And one more thing attractive about this book is that it features one historical figure, William Blake. The story is about two children making friends with William Blake and his wife, and how they inspired him writing some of his most famous poems. I find that fascinating. Last one, I found a 20th century women writer called Georgette Heyer, who wrote historical romance novels that are set in Georgian and Regency eras, and apparently she's very good with historical details, so I did some digging. Heyer was born at the very end of Victorian era and died 1970s. What a time period to be alive in. If I could write a biography of anybody, I would choose someone who was alive during that time period. So I was initially very interested in her novels, but the book covers really give me a vibe of really sugary romance. I'm a bit torn. I am interested in the 20th century point of view, and I also liked reading novels written between the two world wars. I read some review. Apparently they are light-hearted and aim to entertain and to pass time. So I'm a bit worried they are a bit too sweet for my taste. But on the other hand, maybe my reading is just too heavy in general. I could do with some sweet and light reading options for my summer holiday. Why not? But if I do, where do I start? She wrote a lot. If you know Georgette Heyer and her books, if you can give me some advice, that's appreciated. Please let me know. But the good thing is her Kindle books are not expensive. The fifth challenge is to read a book by a contemporary of Jane Austen. For this one, two things popped into my mind. The first is a book that shows me Jane Austen's world and about similar things that Jane Austen wrote about, but from a different perspective and voice. So Frances Burney would be a possibility. I read Evelina recently. I contrasted and compared Evelina with Jane Austen's novels in a recent video, but I don't want to read another Frances Burney. So the most likely candidate, I think, is Maria Edgeworth Belinda. It was written in 1801 and it's about women and marriage, etc., I think, and it's about 500 pages long. It's slightly too long. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I remember when I read Jane Austen at home for the first time, I remember it said something like Jane Austen's favorite prose writer was Samuel Johnson and her favorite poet was William Cowper. So I might try to read some essays from Samuel Johnson and some poems from William Cowper. I've got this massive Norton anthology of English literature, and this one covers the Restoration and the 18th century, so I might just pick something from this one. So the sixth challenge is to watch a direct screen adaptation of Jane Austen's book. I love Pride and Prejudice 2005 film adaptation. The one features Keira Knightley. I think the camera work is amazing. I'd be very happy to rewatch that. And Katie from Books and Things mentioned a new Persuasion adaptation coming out. I watched the trailer recently and I'm not sure I liked it, but trailer can be misleading, so I might still watch it and see. I'll tell you more after I watch the whole thing. And the seventh challenge is to watch a modern screen adaptation. I probably will skip that one. I don't watch things very much nowadays. So that's quite a few books. The plan is I'll start with the biography and the letters, and then I will read What Matters in Jane Austen, and then Pride and Prejudice. And then I'll read Samuel Johnson's essays and Cooper's poems. And then by that point, I'll see how many days are left to the end of the month. Then I'll decide if I should go on with a Tracy Chevalier or a Georgette Heyer or Belinda. I think it's unlikely I'll squeeze Belinda in. So that's my Jane Austen July planning done. Let's see how well I execute them. Don't forget, I'll still need to finish A Suitable Boy in July as well. Lastly, thank you for our hosts to get everybody together to read Jane Austen, and I really look forward to hearing from you what books you read or you plan to read and what you think of them. So that's all for today. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in my next one.